no win condition Rocket Cycle deck at least once today.
All right, well, we will catch up with Andrew and Juicy a bit later. Josh and I joining up, and oh look, logs and princesses. Josh, it's the meta of the month.
I really want to see Ryley's actual face, because Ryley, in all his YouTube videos, he is just constantly laughing. I would assume that's what he's doing now, as both players start off with the princess deck.
And Monk meets Knight at the bridge. Slight variations here between this Monk Phoenix version that we're seeing Ryley run and a little Prince coming out on the opposite side. Evos on the side of Ryley, Tesla and Skeletons. Mohamed Light probably running Evo Tesla as his second slot. We'll see if that ends up being the case. And Josh, you know, I've talked to the pros a little bit about the rise of Princess Rocket Cycle, but let's talk about this a little bit. Why is this so popular right now?
I mean, it has everything to do with it's basically the Princess and the Dagger Duchess. The Princess is constantly getting shots on tower, and it's creating so much pressure. It's forcing Mohamed Light to cycle the Skeletons in the middle, so that way the Princess isn't going to be able to get shots. And the other thing is, the Dagger Duchess is just so strong on defense. You can afford to lose 3 Elixir at the bridge, because the Tesla, with the help of the Monk or the E-Spirit, all of those are going to defend for huge positive Elixir trades.
Well, so far, so good for Mohamed, who has the slight lead, 24-30, on the bottom right-hand tower for Ryley, as Mo sets up his Princess one more time. So slight variations here, Josh. We have the Monk Phoenix on Ryley's side versus the more popular variation of this deck on Mohamed's side. Do you think the Phoenix and Monk create a significant difference in the way these two decks play against each other?
Yeah, I think it creates a significant difference, but I'm not exactly sure who has the advantage. Every time I see any deck with Monk going against a Dagger Duchess, especially one as similar as this one, I just have to assume that it's probably going to be the Monk variation with the advantage.
Rockets traded as we get into the final 30 seconds of regulation time. Lead still held for Mohamed Light, but not a significant one at a little bit under 100 HP. And Ryley already getting rocket number 2 going. And Mohamed replies in kind. Right now, it's Mohamed behind on the rocket cycle. How far do you think it's going to be for him to catch up?
Yeah, one thing to really watch out for is how both of these players are using their evolution, or their Monk and
they're champions.
Yeah, they're champions. Thank you. It's the first game of the day. Just because you want that 3-card cycle in order to get the rockets out as quickly as possible.
So Ryley getting to his rocket a bit faster. Mohamed Light with the damage lead though, with 1:42 remaining in sudden death overtime.
Princess going to be cycled at the bridge. Princess walking to the left lane, but that's really not a problem. Mo's going to be able to defend that pretty easily, and that's what we see right there. Wow.
And Monk, oh, the exchange here at the bridge. The Monk, and then the Evo Skeletons, the log to knock back, the Electro Spirit to clear. A lot of things all happen at once, and it does come out in Ryley's favor, who now at 323 plus a log. Mohamed Light probably has to see the writing on the wall that this game number 1 will be going to the debuting CRL Pro in Ryley.
Yeah, right there. Gets it off in time. Ryley going to take game number 1. Perfection from Ryley. We've been waiting for this for so long. The prediction...
Players preparing their decks for game 2 at the moment, and here we are, jumping on in. And Mohamed Light bats Ryley with the Royal Ghost. And we'll see what direction they go in here for our second stanza. Champions switching sides for this one, as they often do. Not a single card in this game shows an ounce of loyalty, Josh.
And right there, beautiful bar barrel, but not going to be enough. And that little Prince is going to take itself out. A great situation for Mo-Light. Can he get a King Tower activation? No, the NATO, an aggressive NATO. Let's see what Ryley's going to be able to accomplish on this offensive push.
And, you know, I do like going Royal Giant here after playing Phoenix on Ryley's side, as Phoenix is obviously a part of a lot of similar decks. And a little interesting variation Heel Spirit, Josh. Have you been seeing RG Heel Spirit lately?
I can't say that I have. Not since Igor pulled it out 3.5 years ago in CRL.
So Drill NATO Magic Archer cycle for Mohamed Light, a man after my own heart with the deck pick here, as Ryley is going to try to win some bridge fights and bust right on through as we see an Evo Wizard. Or not yet Evo, but the Wizard in the Evo slot for Ryley.
Yeah, I think Ryley's playing, I don't know if it's nervous or just not thinking 100% clearly, but he knows that Mo-Light, let me just finish this push real quick. 3 shots from the RG. Is it going to be able to get a 4th? It does, and Ryley swings back into the lead. But what I was saying was Ryley put the Wizard down a little bit too early. He knew that Mohamed Light was going to activate the ability from the Monk as soon as it crossed the bridge, and he still placed it a tile too high. So hopefully we don't see that now that we are in double elixir.
Excuse me, don't you know who I am?
And the Wizard out in both sides of the board, and you know there are some great things about Evos, there are some less that great things about Evos, and trying to figure out how they fit into the game overall. But I think that, Josh, one of the big positives is the opportunity to take a card that was essentially in the unwanted bin for so long, a card that I don't think I had seen more than once ever in competitive play like Wizard, and make it competitively relevant.
Yeah, I mean, it's always... It's so nice, and especially once we see 5 to 10 more evolutions where there's this massive meta opportunity. I think we're in a very good spot and kind of just spoiled as viewers once we see some more Evos.
And Evo Wizard out for Mohamed Light as he goes drill to the front here. Wizard working against his drill in the back. That's lots of damage, though. 514 remaining. Keep in mind, Mohamed Light, no big spell here, so the closest thing he'll have is this NATO Magic Archer combination, which doesn't get a great lineup, and the Wizard going to work. There's going to be some good Royal Giant damage unless that Monk can knock back, and the Monk able to hold off for Mohamed. Huge championship moment for that Monk.
Yep, only 94 HP left on the tower. Ryley's going to do whatever he can. I don't know. It's not going to be able to take tower just yet. So still, I mean, even though it's a tiny opportunity, there's still an opportunity.
And you saw Ryley there just trying to make sure that there wasn't a potential lineup for the Magic Archer as he goes way on the inside. Royal Giant now in for Ryley. NATO to pull back, and enough damage should be able to clear the RG off the board, and Ryley might be close to seeing the writing on the wall, and that's going to be it. Game number 2 in the books. No sweeps to start things off. We're all tied up in 1-1.
Oh man, this is exactly what you want. Are you kidding me? We get not really that I can think of. We saw some Mortar Graveyard last month, and so there might be some opportunity for some sort of minor graveyard or oh, not minor graveyard. I'm thinking Mortar Graveyard. Yeah, I don't know. Minor is kind of a difficult one to use.
Archer Queen for Mohamed Light.
Minor.
And Mortar Zap. Archer Queen. Mortars in both ways.
So yeah, both players kind of thinking alongside the same lines. You have the Mortar available to you. You have that opportunity for chip damage throughout the match, and I mean, it's going to be Night Graveyards from Ryley, and then Mo-Light. It's just whether or not he can get enough chip damage. The Giant Skeleton. That's an interesting twist to the deck.
I'm unsurprised by Miner out of Mohamed Light, wondering if Ryley was thinking the same thing. You have some options for catching that Miner with the Knight and the Goblins. We'll see how he balances stopping those Miners versus controlling the Mortars. But as you said, Giant Skeleton in the mix. This is a fun deck, and I know that Andrew's got to be on the sideline right now wondering why he's the one who doesn't get to call this matchup.
And see, right there in the previous 10 seconds that we just saw, that just shows the absolute skill level of Ryley. It was a weird interaction, the Archer Queen getting attacked by the Giant Skeleton. Do you activate the ability? He decides not to, and then he just places the Knight perfectly so that it doesn't get touched by the Giant Skeleton whatsoever. A lot of other pros would have taken 1 or 2 shots because they wouldn't have known the interaction. Ryley's so fun.
Molite overall win rate at 86%, with Evo Mortar 73%. Ryley at the moment in CRL play undefeated with Evo Mortar. We'll see if Mohamed Light's able to change that story, or if Ryley continues his dominance with this deck. And a Mother Witch for the graveyard. And I would love to see Ryley's face right now, as that ends up being a difficult reality for him.
Yeah, this could be a massive push. The Knight needs to put in a ton of work, but so far, still able to defend a little bit, but this is a lot of chip damage, getting the tower down to 1804. Ryley with a decent defense, though, keep staying alive.
Giant Skeletons can pull a lot of jobs here. Does not pull the Mortar, a connection for Ryley. He definitely wants a few more of those ones as we go into sudden death overtime. 10 seconds remaining until we switch to our goodbye period, as now it's Mohamed Light's turn to get a connection with a Mortar at the bridge.
I'm trying to think what the matchup is, because even though I'm seeing Goblins and Mother Witch from Mohamed Light, Ryley definitely still has the opportunity to poison out, get the Mortar, the Evo Mortar on top of the tower. There's still a lot of different avenues for him to take this tower.
Giant Skeleton tanking for the Knight. Goblins go, or for the Miner, I mean. Goblins go back to clean up the Miner. We haven't seen a lot of spell work there. We see a late zap, and an Evo Mortar will connect alongside a little sizzle from the Inferno Dragon, and suddenly Ryley has screamed into the lead with 1:20 left.
Ryley doing a great job of protecting his Mortar. The Archer Queen is going to wake up just in time. You needed to get that last shot. Can it get it? It doesn't matter.
Wow. Take a look at that, folks. Ryley with the win in game number 1. Mohamed Light keeping with the theme.
You know, meeting all the people and understanding, yeah, I belong here. I am on the same caliber as these guys. And the difference about Ryley is that he's one of the guys in the chat, in the room, that goes, I could beat one of these guys. I could be up there. And it's actually true. And we're seeing it here now in 2024 as he starts off with Princess early here in game number 1 against Pedro, a guy who I think was a huge question mark in 2023. Will he be able to do it? He's pretty soft-spoken. He's a really nice guy. You know, not a huge, you know, YouTube personality or anything, but obviously the big stage and the bright lights did not get to him in 2023.
Here comes the Giant and Miner with a zap to stop that little prince. Miner's going to get on the tower a little bit, and Ryley with the Miner version of this deck. So no E-Spirit, no extra cycle card. The big question is, last card, is it Poison or is it Rocket? I think that's going to matter a lot here. I think Rocket definitely can be very strong. But I think you'd actually prefer to have Poison versus this Giant deck for solid defenses.
Definitely, and being able to get on top of that Phoenix, being able to get through this Wizard shield. Fun little note here is last night our competitors were doing a lot of practicing. Sub was practicing, Mo was practicing, Lucas was practicing, but Ryley and Pedro played over an hour and a half together. I think they played almost 20 games together. Oh, wow. Just practicing, going all different decks, all different matchups, and I think Ryley ended up taking 11 of those games, so definitely taking over half of them. It seems like as the night closed out, Ryley was able to pick up more games in a row, so maybe Pedro was just getting tired, but at least in their skirmish, their exhibition before today, Ryley was the one who came out on top, and we'll see if Pedro and his Mini P.E.K.K.A. I love seeing the Mini P.E.K.K.A. Mini P.E.K.K.A. doing really well against Giant, doing really well against Monk, doing good against Miners if it can catch them. Fun little card here.
And speaking of Miner, this Miner doing a whopping amount of damage here with the Dagger Duchess out of daggers. And then Pedro trying to predict the Princess as well here. Ryley, you know, with the mind games here, you know, he makes his opponent predict the Princess, and then he goes Princess in the opposite lane. You never know when that Princess is going to drop. And then speaking of more mind games, you have a Miner placement swished up yet again from Pedro here. Ryley having a tough time picking that up.
Yeah, game pretty even here, but it almost feels like Pedro's playing much more responsively and Ryley's playing much more aggressively, and we'll see if that's gonna start to lean in Pedro's favor, as he definitely has the spell power to deal with all of these tiny little cards, at least being able to reset the Princess if he needs to, but that cycle is pretty tough to keep up with.
Yeah, it just makes me also think that Ryley might actually have Rocket. If he does have Rocket, that is the X factor that could help him come back in the game, but it is going to be the poison. Miner unable to be picked up. The Miner poison doing some solid damage, but here comes the counter push.
I like how aggressive Ryley's being at the bridge, dropping skeletons right away, dropping little Prince right away, getting as much damage as he can, as quickly as he can, to make sure that things are not reliant on being taken out by those daggers from the Duchess.
Okay, log through, does clean up the Phoenix egg. Miner does get quite a bit of chip yet again. Seems like,
I mean, this is just Pedro playing Miner poison again, right? Do you see?
Yeah.
He's just figured out a way to get something to tank for that Miner.
Oh, that's a great call out, really. I mean, it's exactly what I was really about to say, too. I mean, that giant poison Miner versus just Miner poison, which one's going to win? Giant being able to tank those dagger Duchess is going to give you a bit of an advantage every time.
And then the Princess, you know, it's interesting for Ryley to figure out where to play the Princess, because he gets that kind of chip damage on the right-hand side, and we'll see if it starts to get evened out, if he starts to spend a little bit more attention on that right-hand side. But really not getting in the conversation otherwise is that Princess. So we'll see if things change here in the final minute of play. 50 seconds remaining here in triple overtime. This is when giant triple spell, you should just be able to pour it on. But can you keep up with that 3-card cycle? We'll have to find out.
Great call. Looks like he wants to go for the poison, not on the left-hand side tower, on Little Prince to prevent the 3-card cycle. He does stay alive, but Log is going to clean that up. Very close game, 30 seconds on the clock. Ryley needs to apply pressure. He goes for the Knight to tank the Dagger Duchess. He goes for the poison first, and then the Miner. Mini Pekka not able to catch just like that. It's a very close game. Tesla Pie sniping the Wizard, and the Dagger Duchess is out. We see the same thing from Pedro here. Poison, and then a Miner.
Pedro should be able to win this as long as he can catch this Miner. He does have the spell power, and the Princess can't be dropped at the bridge. So there you go. Miner gets a little bit of damage in. Mini Pekka to block up high. Another poison comes out. Log in either direction. And Pedro does what Pedro does very, very well, which is just hold the line, Miner chip away, poison damage in, just defensive defeat.
He was on the left side tower for so long, getting so much damage, while Pedro was constantly attacking that left side tower throughout the entirety of the match.
Yeah, and then that Princess chip damage from Ryley becomes that much less impactful. You don't have to worry about the mind games, and you still have so much HP to give up on that other side. So, you know, here we go. Game number 2. Ryley going to go back to, you know, kind of cycly. We're going to see Drill out early on along with Royal Ghost. Pedro going to stick to heavier stuff here with Royal Giant coming out. Royal Giant a lot more popular than it has been in a while. And we'll see how it matches up here against some guards and a wizard, which are going to be great ways to defend throughout this game.
Wizard guards, I mean, like you said, just such high DPS. Pedro not having the monk either, has the Little Prince, so maybe breaking through that wizard will be difficult in the future. Even if you have a lightning, that Evo wizard, that shield could be that blockade that Ryley needs in his defensive playstyle.
And I'm curious about the matchup. You know, I feel like that in-between game took a little bit longer than it has, you know, leading out throughout the day. And you wonder who was the person that took a little bit longer to pick their deck. And for some reason, I feel like it was probably Ryley. I have no idea. But I feel like there was just a little bit extra pause for picking decks there in between games 1 and games 2 as that RG gets a few shots in. Evo RG, man, really just changed the way Royal Giants played in single elixir.
Yeah, I mean, you play one as soon as you can to get that Evo version and cycle. It's so much harder to defend, especially once it gets to the tower. Then any sort of melee unit like those guards are just going to continually getting knocked back. And I think that's why we're seeing Heal Spirit added to these RG decks. The second time we've seen RG Heal Spirit today. That Heal Spirit's so strong at healing up the Evo RG as best as possible just to try to get him to the tower. Because once he's there, that's where it starts to put in the work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what it is you get that Heal Spirit on top of that Evo RG. If the ground units are all you have from your opponent's point of view, that damage stacks up so insanely quickly. And also, even as you saw with that Miner coming across, or excuse me, the Knight coming across the bridge with the Bar Barrel, is, you know, when that Dagger Duchess is low, you can still play a late Heal Spirit on top of a somewhat tanky card and demand a big response out of your opponent. So I like that the Heal Spirit works in conjunction going against against the Dagger Duchess. We'll just have to see how it fares at the highest level, right? I mean, you know, just to kind of go on a tangent from that conversation, is Expo is everywhere on top ladder and in grand challenges, and it is never anywhere to be seen in competitive.
Yeah, and then part of that is just because, you know, in competitive, there's just so much more Monk and there's more Giants and RGs. There's more unorthodox decks because this is the dual format. You can't just play Rocket Cycle every single time. Maybe you could try to snipe a Rocket Cycle or a Drill Poison deck with Expo to get a good matchup, but it's just very risky. And that's the thing about this league. I mean, these players are trying to play as non-risky as possible. There's a lot of money on the line.
Yeah. 1640, 1886. Magic Archer gets a shot on that left-hand side along with the drill popping damage to narrow the gap just a little bit here. Pedro in the lead, but I think he's starting to figure out that he's having a tough time breaking through. Maybe we'll see a lane change, not sure, as he misses that fireball on top of the Magic Archer. Now Magic Archer does get picked up by the Fisherman. That's nice there for Pedro.
But here comes the ability plus drill plus Evo Bats on the right-hand side. He does have the Barbarian Barrel. For
that is a scary push.
Fireball drops down. Maybe gets the job done. Fisherman, MVP, pulls the Magic Archer as well, and he survives for now. But here comes another drill.
I mean, about as clean as that defense could have gotten. Now just a hair early on the ability, doesn't seem to matter. 1597, 1640, now playing everything on the right side, so Pedro goes to the left. Monk catches the RG at the bridge, guards there as well. RG should not get any shots.
Runner Drag, a great counter to Monk. Fireball, great counter to Magic Archer, though. And here comes the Goblin Drill yet again. No Barbarian and Cycle, but a perfect Knight placement. Now the Barbarian and Cycle. Will we see a Magic Archer Bridge? It's hard to do it because that Fisherman's always ready to pull. Speaking of pull, there goes the Wizard.
Ooh, nice ability there. Now the late Heal Spirit doesn't get the bats, but does heal that Royal Giant. And now the drill has to come out defensively. Second RG comes in, maybe, question mark? No, it does not. Knight on the right-hand side. Damage does come in, 1231. Fireball in. Pedro gonna make this a very nice 2-0 victory. A lot more work than game number one, but still gets it done here as Ryley gets sent down to the lower bracket.
Wow, what a fantastic match from both players. Pedro very excited. You know, he's
only because of Ryley's fan base, but because of Ryley's performance. So I think this is going to be a fascinating one. I'll be shocked if EGW is able to pull off the upset, but I'm always here for it.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into the action. Ryley, top of your screen, EGW coming from the blue side of our arena as he sets up Bowler. And we lived in a Bowler meta for a long time, and has not been around quite as much as of late.
And right there, and okay, it will get one reflection back onto the tower, getting the tower down to 21-16. Ryley with a good start and up by 600 HP already. So is this the no candy only Wi-Fi giant graveyard deck? Is that what we're seeing right here?
I'm not sure if we're gonna see the full exact no candy version. We are seeing some nice extra chip damage as the Royal Giant comes through for two more, gets that tower down to 1502. So far, so good for Ryley here. But yes, Giant Bowler GY for a long time, a one-trick deck. And of course, 2024 has changed all the rules for Clash Royale.
And right here, Ryley, I mean, this is the hot start that he was looking for. One thing that these pros are doing that I've really started to adjust into my own game is utilizing the Evo Wizards explosion radius, because it just does so much damage, cleans up so many different things, and all these pros do it so well. Ryley's previous defense, he was just able to clean up all the bats because of it. So good.
It's almost kind of
Ryley.
giant skeleton-ish in some ways.
Yeah.
Except for you keep your troop on the board. So, as we saw in a game-changing moment earlier on, look at that Fisherman very far away. Gonna go ahead and deal with some skellies, but that Knight gets in, does a lot of tankage, and while there's a good amount of damage, it also forces a ton of elixir out from Ryley, who now has to decide if he wants to double down or reset here.
Well, and EGW doesn't have a lot of DPS on the board now that he's cycled the Night Witch to the left lane. It feels like an RG bridge could have been an answer, but instead Ryley going to choose to continue to defend and see what that does for him.
And Snowball to slow and knock things back. And this is going to turn into quite a lot of damage. Monk getting absolutely devastated by the Evo Archer at that double damage or that extra damage range. And suddenly EGW in a pretty big lead as we make the transition to sudden death overtime. 1180 on Ryley's top right-hand tower. EGW down to 1502 in the left lane. Pretty clean. So the Graveyard deck has dual lane options, although currently winning pretty significantly in the right-hand side. EGW smartly, though, keeping the pressure up in both lanes.
Ryley forced to defend with the Monk, should be able to stop it before the Giant can even get to the tower, but with the help of the Snowball, he might need a little something else, but instead going to allow one shot onto the tower. And at this point, I mean, everybody's just waiting for Ryley to go on offense. Nightwish cycled in the back. This is his time to go.
And this RG will get one, does not get the second, almost ties it up, 15 HP separating these two. And now EGW trying to get back on offense here. Ryley, though, has built up quite the bridge fight.
We've been waiting for that for a while. Monk plus the Phoenix should be able to take out everything. And there we go. Heading into triple elixir. I mean, it is as close as it gets. 1195 to 1180.
So with Ryley here, you see him, I mean, we see EGW splitting lanes one more time. Do you like the lane split here, or do you think he wanted to sit back and get one more good defense in before counter pushing?
No, I really like the split lane pressure. You have to make sure that Ryley can't go in on offense, because as soon as he does, he should be able to take tower. It should be easy for these RGs to get on tower, but because EGW is forcing out so much elixir on defense, Ryley's not getting that opportunity.
Graveyard in, Monk doing some reflection work. Snowball will get onto the Wizard. Do any skeletons get on tower? And a very important tower touch. EGW takes game number one.
I think what I would like to see is Ryley just go for it regardless. I think he's easily the best cycle player in the... okay. I think he is the best cycle player in the world. Probably not easily. I think that's a little bit of a stretch. But instead, he's going to go in with Lava. And let's see how EGW responds.
And it might be Lava for EGW as well. And maybe not.
A little bit of reflection, getting a little bit of chip on top of the tower, getting it down to 2502. That's a pretty big push coming in. The Lightning will be able to clean up a lot of it, but now he gets to go in with a Loon, and I don't know if EGW has enough elixir to respond.
He definitely doesn't. You see the look on his face. He knows, and we've seen this also with Sub earlier when EGW did it to him, right? He knows that he is stuck flat-footed and has no recourse. So this is going to be probably a pretty easy win for Ryley in game number 2. A big sigh of relief for the Goblin and his fans.
Yeah, so it appears that EGW only has the Phoenix and the Lightning in terms of air counters overall. And I mean, really, it's a matchup you're going to lose 90% of the time. But you have to be careful about putting the Monk in front of the Phoenix, activating the ability. That's a lot of elixir to spend, and it doesn't give you the opportunity to defend the counter push. You just auto lose if you activate the ability.
And he goes RG opposite lane. Just has to do something here. Void plus Snowball will put so much damage on that Royal Giant, and man, it is impressive how much that Void spell can hit pretty hard, especially when there's just one thing on the board.
Yeah. Right now, heading into double elixir, and I'm trying to think of really anything that EGW can actually do, and I guess this would be it, but it just feels like the Inferno Dragon is always going to be so strong on defense. And I think he might have the Evo Valk in cycle.
Here we go. Evo RG in, Monk in front of it. And Ryley is going to let the tower on the right-hand side fall and opt for what is going to be a pseudo trade situation, as the Evo Valk should be sufficient to clean up the Evo Royal Giant. Lightning goes in, and that's very smart play from Ryley. No reason to fight the Evo RG on the right-hand side. He goes in and he goes, hey, I know that I can defend this entire push with an Evo Valk and a Little Prince and get your tower on the opposite lane. That was very good macro out of Ryley.
Yeah, loved what I saw from him in game number 2, and we're finally seeing a 3-crown. I feel like I'm going crazy. Is that like the first 3-crown this year?
I'm not entirely sure.
It can't be.
There has to have been at least one other 3-crown at some point. At least
one. You would think, right?
Yeah, I mean, you might, but either way, now we go into a game number 3, and we kind of saw this interesting turn of events that went through both games, right? Where Ryley just got kind of stuck in a spot where he really could never get on offense, and then the opposite thing happened in the other direction where the game was decided within the first 30 seconds of gameplay pretty much between these two. And we've seen EGW recover from this before today. We saw the same thing happen, right? A bad game 2 against Sub, and came out with something out there and strange in game number 3. So let's
Bridge. You knew it was coming. The entire world knew it was coming. Princess Bridge after a push.
Yeah, I just got a text from my mother saying, hey, Princess Bridge. So, I mean, she was quick with it. Everybody could see that one was coming next. 570 left in EGW's life on this CRL weekend. Certainly happy with money and points, but to get this far and be this close, you really want to find a way through, and it is MK Pigs. There is certainly some overwhelm capability here, but not when you're this far down against a Rocket Cycle deck.
Yeah, not against this guy. The Princess Bridge, again, coming down. The Ghost is, I mean, it's not even worrisome. You're going to be able to take it out easily with the Tesla, and we're 10 seconds away from seeing a victory for Ryley and moving on to the next round.
And there you go, the victory lap for Ryley. Rocket in, GG, well played. Goblin, one step closer to World Finals.
All the Ryley naysayers, including myself. I don't actually consider myself quite a Ryley naysayer. I know he's incredible, but I do think when it comes to going up against someone like Momo, Ryley is definitely the underdog. We'll see here, Juice. This is a big one.
Molite with a zap to start getting the Evo Zap and cycle as quickly as possible. Ryley immediately with a Giant in the back and a Night Witch as well. Molite with a zap and Little Prince. I would have to guess maybe a Giant mirror matchup, but it really could be anything. Little Prince and Zap, both fairly strong cards.
And community numbers here, 90% for Mohamed Light. So 10% of you out there are Ryley stands as he is about to deal with this push. Bowler, though, what a great response to that Night Witch and Little Prince.
Bomber at the bridge. Ryley's out of elixir. This Bomber might be able to splash tower. That's 2 shots with the Giant, almost 3. A bit of a counter push for Ryley here. Does he have enough for a Giant bridge? He does get the Giant barely in front of one Archer and this Bowler.
Bomber for defense? No, he just played his Bomber. You got to go Night Witch up high and just take a lot of damage here. Night Witch plus that Phoenix, though, will definitely give Mo the slight lead. Yeah, there it is, 13-33, and a small counter push.
Interesting to see a Giant mirror matchup with no Fisherman. A lot of time we see Fisherman as a defensive crutch in these mirror matchups to activate King Tower, but also just pull Giants to the ops lane Dagger Duchess. Light with the Little Prince instead in this version of the deck, maybe saving Fisherman for later for Roll Giant deck, but the dynamic here is just so interesting. It seems like neither of these players can defend each other.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really great way to put it. And honestly, if Mo had maybe held on that Bomber for just a second, he could have created more of a threat with it. But instead, goes to a spot where the Bowler can take out both and does still take the tower. And Juicy, I think your point is really sound. Let's see how Mohamed Light wants to defend now. He goes Night Witch up high, Little Prince low, and that should be enough. The ability is going to clean up the skeletons, take out the Giant. He should have more than enough elixir to deal with everything else on the board. And this should be an early and easy game number 1 win here for Mohamed Light.
Yeah, that graveyard I don't know. It just seemed like the Graveyard took a spot in which you needed a defensive card in this deck.
Yeah.
I mean, Ryley just not able to defend the giant Phoenixes with the archers as the main air defense, because those arrows, or even an Evo Zap, is always ready to rumble here. And with the evolution nerf to the archers, they just do not survive arrows anymore either. So
And this,
I think that is
this
just
goes exactly back to what we were just talking about, Juicy, is like this dude, he can absolutely adjust to the macro faster than anyone. I mean, you and I are talking about, okay, well, look at this. Wow, there's no fisherman in this matchup. That's usually kind of...
Yeah, you have to be stone cold here. You have to think like this is just a normal ladder match. I mean, Ryley, both good lucks from both players. I mean, Ryley did beat Muhammad Light in a mirror matchup to get #1 in Path of Legends last season. So, I mean, he definitely knows that he can win. It's just a matter of if he can put it into practice here.
Nice 3 shots early on there from Muhammad Light, 23-66. Fishboy not able to activate King.
Monk in the back here. Monk is going to be very good for Ryley, especially versus the Wizard here. We see an early ability. Going to deflect 3 shots and take that Wizard out with its own fireballs.
And right now, Pedro just praying to the Clash Royale gods that Momo can close out this set.
Monk knocking this back very nicely. Bomber getting some good splash value as well. We do see an ability, and it's just barely in time to deflect that whole Dagger Duchess shots. Very solid damage from Mo so far with just Monks, really. Monks and I guess a Magic Archer connection at the beginning.
Ryley probably can taste World Finals, just wanting to close things out. Just needs Pedro to lose a match and for him to stay alive, but that is a lot when you're down a game against Muhammad Light here and down about 600 HP. 590 something if we care that much as a drill comes in.
Free Barbarian Barrel because he doesn't want to leak much elixir, but that just kind of backfires because he misses the prediction and the Fisherman has to drop down. The Dagger Duchess are going to be able to deal with this very easily, allowing the Ghost to be basically full health for counter push. We have a Monk added to it as well. Try and counteract the other Monk. We see the ability. Yes, we do.
And now down to 1885 as Ryley is still trying to figure out a way to cross this river and get some damage on tower. And this Evo Wizard will get taken out by the Fisherman.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, he just cannot cross this river. He has not dealt a single hit point of damage yet. Maybe we'll see a fireball here. No fireball. That means Ryley most likely has lightning, which could be decent. Like right about now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
go for it. Maybe
kind of praying for that Magic Archer and Wizard lineup.
Yeah, the other thing is maybe he's just like he realizes that a lightning on the tower is not gonna be enough to win this game. Like he knows that he needs to break through with a big push. But I mean, no lie, he's just the king of blocking at the river here. I mean, nothing's breaking through.
And Magic Archer shot does not come through, but bats are already pre-placed to deal with this RG. Guards are there as well. Finally, the E-Spirit Bomber comes out, but all is already said and done with that Evo RG. And yeah, if you want an Evo RG to be a non-factor, just make sure it doesn't shoot even once. Deal with the units on the ground, deal with the pushback, any of that. 1682, 2768. And yes, that is the competitive standard for what your tower starts at. So Ryley guys, opposite lane.
Opposite lane is smart. I think it was a Pedro versus someone matchup earlier where Pedro was able to win this RG matchup by continually switching lanes and preventing drill on one side. I think it was actually Pedro versus Ryley, maybe. Except Ryley
that sounds right, I believe, and that's exactly what you're talking about, Juice. Was those late game switches, the entirety of the game switching with the Royal Giant just made it so his opponent could not get those drill pushes that he wanted.
It's like Ryley's understanding that now, but I don't know. It might be too little, too late here. We're heading into triple elixir overtime. 60 seconds left on the clock. Ryley's now switching lanes. The Fireball is going to be the spell of choice, but the Monkey Bully predicting the Bar Barrel, but the Electro Spear, though, very solid plays.
And this is like what we talked about earlier with Ryley when he dropped his set to Pedro, was just making the recognition just a little bit too late. And we'll see if that's the exact same story here in this set against Mohamed Light, which it really does appear to be that way. 34 seconds remain. Drill comes in. Royal Ghost going to go invisible. So now Fisherman distracted by that drill. Evo Wizard coming across 1271 to 2254. And I think Mohamed Light can see the writing on the wall. Magic Archer does line up, and that should do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be a Mohamed Light sweep. He just needs one more Magic Archer shot. Ryley knows it as well. Here comes the Monk ability. One more, and the Magic Archer finishes off. Mohamed Light with a
Juicy.
2-0 sweep.